Perfect. Well, welcome to week 3 of our series where we've all been gathering and really just working on our mindset, thinking ourselves into results. And along with that, taking into consideration all of this training that we're learning with Justin Prince through, the recruiting blueprint. And I don't know if any of you ladies were able to get on to the Tony Robbins last night, but it was phenomenal. And a lot of those concepts I've heard before, and I think a lot of us may have heard them in one way or another, but just like that repetition of me hearing it again was incredible, and it was a lot and in line with what we've been talking about, right? Like that paradigm of what we've created in our belief system. And, it was kind of funny yesterday when he was doing it because he writes BS on the board. He's like, what does that stand for? And everybody's like, bullshit. And he's like, well, it can, but really it's your belief system. And, and it's true because a lot of times our belief system can literally be bullshit, right? Like the things that we tell ourselves are not necessarily true. So I wanted to talk about a little bit more in regards to that about like our infinite mind. And I will see if we can find the recording. I know it was recorded last night, so I can pop it in there for everybody else, but I haven't seen it been sent out. So I'll find out from him if he's going to give that to us and allow us to send it out to people. But, so we've been talking about like retraining our brain and the knowing doing gap, but then, like the things that we need to say to ourselves as well. But I want to talk about the infinite mind, and this is going to kind of tie everything together versus our limited programming. Because Bob Proctor, so he's the one that's done all of this training about the thinking into results, where I'm getting this literature. This is stuff that I've studied that I'm bringing to you guys. And he's always taught that the mind is not something sitting inside your head, right? Because when we think mind, we think our brain, right? And he says that the mind is an energy field. And it's infinite. Like our mind has no boundaries. It has no walls. It has no limits. But the problem is we grow up in environments that teach us to think small. Everywhere, anywhere from in our home, in our workplace, in our school, like we inherit these beliefs from our parents, from teachers, from society, and even from past experiences. And as we've been talking about, those beliefs are what build this paradigm. And the best way to think about this paradigm is essentially like a mental box. And so we have these walls around us and we feel like we can't break through those walls. And what's been stored in this box is who we are and the way we've always be, the way we think, the way we act, all of that. But I want you guys to really imagine like our mind is infinite. I don't know the scientific facts in that, but I know that there's only a very small percentage of what we actually utilize in our brain. And if we were actually able to tap in and use everything, like our potential of what we can hit and what we can achieve and the things that we can accomplish, again, are infinite. Like everything is possible. But the problem is this box, right? So think of this as like this treasure box, right? We've been trained to think inside this tiny little square. We haven't been trained to think outside of that. And that's why, like deep down in most of us, right? Raise your hand, like you feel that you're capable of more. You know that there's more out there. I know I feel that way. Bonnie, I'm sure you feel that way, Dina. But the problem is it's kind of like this urge where we don't understand. It's like, I know I can do more and I could be more, but how? Like you get stuck and then you revert back to this tiny little box because you don't really know how to step outside of that. You don't know how to think differently. And so we just continue to act like the old version of who we are. And that's why sometimes we get inspired, like 1 minute, we're super inspired and we have this big belief system and we know that we can do this. And we know that we're going to crush this month. And then what happens? We hesitate just moments after. So it's that stopping and going that I talked about last week. And, it's really not that we're not capable. It's not that we don't have what it takes, but we have to train our programming. We have to really understand that it's simply that our infinite mind is fighting against this limited paradigm that we've created, this little tiny box that we're supposed to think inside of. And, Bob Proctor had said, it's really, really powerful that I want you to write down. And it says, you will never outperform the boundaries of your own thinking. So look at this box, like I'm a visual person. So you look at this box and those walls, that's your thinking cap, right? That's the cap of what you think, of the things you've told yourself, the lies that you have told yourself, who you think that you are. Those boundaries, we have to get outside of them before we can ever outperform. So if we think small, we're going to act small. But if we think big, we can expand into big results. And, I talk about this all the time. Mentorship, proximity is absolutely important in creating this daily repetition, because naturally we will shrink back down into that box. We have to be around others that have the big thinking. We have to be around others that are thinking outside of the box, that have kind of learned how to break through that. And so as we're going through this and we're learning from Justin, because Justin's teaching us these things in a different aspect, he's teaching them more in a more of a strategic way on how to get out there and invite people to this opportunity that we have available. And so it's not that we want to tweak your habits, but we want to expand your thinking. That's the number one goal here, is to expand our thinking, because then our action steps and our habits that we create out of that are going to be the accurate ones. And, because once our thinking expands, everything else is going to follow. Like our confidence and our leadership and our ability to share authentically, it's all going to naturally expand because of our level of thinking. Our belief in the business, our income, all of this is going to grow as long as we start growing outside of that tiny box that we have put ourselves in. And, a lot of people want to make a good income, and I don't like the word rich in a way, but thinking about it when it comes into your mindset is, we don't get rich in our bank account first. We get rich in our mind first. So if we are here and we want our income to grow, which is obviously why we're learning how to recruit authentically and bring in people into the team, that's not gonna, we're doing that because visually we want to increase our bank account. We want to create more financial stability in the home, have more margin for ourselves. But we're not going to get there if our mind is not rich first. And so you have to think about, when we start living from the truth that our mind is infinite and that we can go beyond anything that we've ever done before, we will start making decisions based on where we're going, not where we have been. And that's a big thing that we need to take from this, is a lot of times we look at the future and we decide on what our future is going to be based off of what we've done in the past. So then all you're really doing is living this Groundhog Day. You're like, well, I've done this before, so I could do it again in the future. We don't want to base, our future off of what we've done in the past. We want to base our future off of where we know we can go, which is beyond anything that we've ever done before. And that's really how we're going to help you with transforming. And it's, transforming your life and doing it through quantum style. And, that's really what we're working on here as we're going through these series here. Is the mind is infinite, but our conditioning is what leaves us limited. So we have to recondition our mind and understand that we're not limited by our potential. Everybody has an endless amount of potential, but we're limited by our programming. So we can go through Justin's course for the next couple of weeks, but if our mind's not right, we're not going to put any of it into action. We're still going to be stuck in that knowing doing gap. We're going to be in that gap of where we are and where we want to be, but we're not having a capability problem. We're having a program problem, right? Because it's like, I know where I am and I know where I want to go, but I'm stuck in between the two of them. And it's not that we don't have the skill sets, we don't have the talent. It's not that we don't have the resources. We don't have the right programming within ourselves. And that's truly where it starts. So our business is going to grow in direct proportion to how much we expand mentally. So I have a couple of questions as we're talking about this. Is we did the knowing doing gap last week. And the knowing doing gap we talked about, we know that we need to invite people to our opportunity without needing to have to know everything and all the details and the compensation plan. We just know we need to put the invite out there. So, and you don't have to say it on here, but, I want you guys to really reflect on how many people did you invite to the opportunity calls last week? And then ask yourself, Dina, you did 7. Awesome. So then ask yourself, could you have done more? And then ask yourself, of those that you asked, was it hard for you to get that initial message out? Right? Because we're trying to decipher like what's holding us back from sending those messages. 7's a great number. That's about 1 a day, right? That's a good flow. And I always say it's not necessarily quantity, which this is a numbers game. I have mentioned this, but it's also quality. So going back to what Justin has taught us, has some of that. So let me look at what the title of the last one was. It was something about competency that, and speaking with, where's it at? And I was going to ask you guys some questions in regards to this because it was probably one of my okay, it says increase your competence. He talks a lot about when we're talking to people, it's not about us. So he had a really great analogy in there where he said, a lot of times when you're in conversation with somebody, you're so eager about what you're going to say next that you don't listen to him. And, he talked about the best thing that you could do is say their name, ask about them, make sure that they're the ones that are speaking more. And he talked about Oprah Winfrey. And he says, who controls the show on Oprah Winfrey? Well, Oprah does, right? But who does the most talking? Not Oprah, the people that are on her show. But Oprah is the one that's asking all the questions. So as, we're going through what we're learning with Justin, he's going to teach us the things to say, but we're still not going to say them if we don't have the right mindset, because we're going to think that's not me. That sounds tacky. What are they going to think about me when I do this? So as you guys went through, we had 4 different videos that we had to read. It was increase your competence, compound your conversations. And let me go to week 2 real quick to look at the other ones. And I would love for you guys to come off mute and kind of, let's talk through what was, that's week 2. Am I in week 2? Yes. And then it was measure your credibility and influence. What were some of your guys' biggest takeaways in regards to what Justin was teaching us in that? And were you able to kind of reflect on the last 2 weeks of the things that we talked about? Did you find that you were getting stuck in that knowing doing gap? Because he gave you the 6 steps to a professional invite. So did you have that urge and you're like, I'm inspired, I'm going to send the message out, but then your programming kicks in and you're like, oh, but what are they going to think? And I'm not a leader. And who am I to bring somebody into this business and lead them? I'd love for you guys to share any of those experiences that you had, because what we want to do is break through those. Go ahead.
All right. So my biggest fear is, that's not me, right? Or hasn't been me in the past. It's going to become me in the future. But me sending stuff out like that, and I was just like, you know what? Just tighten up your belt, suck it up, send it anyway. I had 3 people not respond. 4 people, 1, 2, 3, 4 people not respond. 1 person responded and she says, well, she's more interested in the product. So I forwarded her information on products. And she's like, well, I'm going to start with just walking around the neighborhood. I'm like, great. I'll run into you and can't wait to see you in the little kiddos. And, we'll catch up then. I had 1 person respond accidentally because I had sent it out to him and his wife together. I haven't seen them in many years. But we're still Facebook friends, but he accidentally responded to me with something different. And I was like, "Oh, ha ha ha, that's funny." He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to send this to you. I meant to send it to Lisa's other friend." And I said, "Oh, well, that happens anyway. Would you be interested in me sending you a link just so you can check it out?" And nada. Nada. This man works out every day and his wife is a Zumba instructor. And I'm like, you'd think something, but so it was basically getting over my fear last week
Yes.
and just sending them. So I did, and I will send more this week.
And so you got over your initial fear, which is sending it out, right?
Yes.
And so now what you want to do is compound your belief system, because now probably what's happening is you're like, okay, I had 4 people not respond to me. They're probably out chattering in their mind, like, who is she? Why is she sending this to me? So now you're in this backtrack, you're creating this belief system that you're stuck in. And then even when somebody like messages you, like this gentleman, on the wrong topic, but then doesn't respond in something else, what happens is you go back into that little box and you're like, yeah, he doesn't believe in what I'm doing. And what can happen is if you stay in that flow, then you quit sending the messages because you're like, what is the next person going to think? So,
Right.
one, you got out of that knowing doing gap, like you sent the messages out. Now,
Hmm.
what you need to do is understand that whatever they decide is not a reflection of you.
Right.
Whatever they decide is not a reflection of the business, not a reflection of the products. And the way I like to look at this is because sometimes we can get a little hasty and be a little frustrated. And I know my personality. Sometimes I'm like, man, I can get real snappy if I want to. Because sometimes you get offended by it, right? You're like, well, how come you can respond to me on this other topic, but not even say, hey, thanks, but I'm not interested. Some
Right.
people just are not like that. So what you have to do is just take it with a grain of salt and think of it as they don't know the value yet. But where you are going and the people you're going to be helping and the stories you can start sharing and the education you can start providing on your social, aside from in the inbox, eventually, if they are the right person, they will
Hmm.
start to find that value. And you
Right.
never know down the road, he might come back and be like, I'm so sorry I never responded to you, but I am interested. But if he doesn't, that's not a reflection of you or your efforts. That's just him that he's, he just may not be interested or and
Right.
it's hard to say, but he probably doesn't even have the knowledge of what these peptides are, right? Because he hasn't looked into anything. So you have to just throw it under the rug and then keep sending those invites out, keep
Right.
working. And that was the next chapter that he talks about was compound your conversations. Because, we might send 3 messages out and somebody comes back and says something, and then we are building that belief system, like we're confirming our old belief system is the best way to say it. And you're like, see, I knew it. I knew this person wasn't going to be interested. And then what happens is we pull back and we're back in our old limiting beliefs, and then we quit sending messages. So it's
Right.
this stop and go, and it takes forever. But if you just compound the messages, I'm going to get them out. I'm going to make sure they're with people I want to work with, and I'm not going to worry about their response. And you get more conversations in a shorter amount of time. That's when you're going to start seeing momentum faster, right? Because if I go and I send 100 messages in December and Linda sends 50 and Bonnie sends 25, I will have the most momentum of people telling me no. And that's the way I look at it. The more no's I can get, the closer I'm going to get to a yes. But out of 100 people, maybe I have 5 join, right? And then I get excited
Right.
and I get that momentum. And then I have that belief system because I'm like, the system's working. I'm compounding those conversations. I'm having more people have the seed in their mind, whether they ignore me or not. They know I've introduced it. More people have told me no. I'm getting closer to people telling me yes. Versus if Linda sends 50, she might only have, 2 people join, maybe 1. And then what happens is that keeps her in this small box because she's like, well, I only had 1 person join. And then like with Bonnie, if she sends 5, she may not even have anybody join. And you might have a couple people that check it out. But that's why you want to compound these conversations so that you can get more and more people to respond to you, whether it's a yes or a no, because that there is going to help you. And like I said, we can go back and look at what's being said. How can we craft those conversations a little bit easier in the beginning? And Justin talks about that. So the increase your competence, and then also the measure credibility and influence. Those are good ones to really look at because in these conversations, let's, It's two parts because he talks about he wants you to get to the point, right? That's part of the 6 steps of creating a professional invite is let's get to the point. Let's not be 30 minutes in just building conversations around kids. Like you want them to know why you had reached out to them, but you also need them to have that no like trust factor. So it's that even balance of getting the conversations out, introducing like, hey, I have, a project, or he has a couple words in there, project, venture, and then there was one other one that he likes to use. And then what happens, but how are you doing first? And make sure that they know that you're truly interested in them so that you can open up this conversation more. Because I can bet you a lot of people are getting nothing but salesy. Check out my product, check out my product, check out my product, especially with all the Black Fridays. I mean, I'm getting stuff and I'm like, woman, if you would even look at my Facebook, I don't need weight loss. Like, like I'm not looking for another company here, but these people are being trained wrong. They're sending copy paste messages and they're not doing it authentically. So most people are getting that. So if you come in with a different conversation, knowing in the back, yes, we want to introduce our peptides and our products, but we want them to know that we truly are thinking about them too and trying to get them to talk about themselves. Because Justin says, people love to talk about themselves. People love to hear their name. So even in messages, when you're responding to people, jump in there and just be like, Bonnie, I completely understand where you're coming from. I struggled with that. And do those different tweaks to kind of create a better conversation. And then Bonnie, I saw you came off mute. Would you like to share?
Yeah, because this hit home with me, just like you said, like I feel like I get bombarded a lot. And I'm the same way. And because and this is how I perceive it, you just put something else on my plate that I have to make a decision on. And most days I have decision fatigue because I'm always, do I do this or do that? I've, clients to respond to, whatever that looks like. You guys have kids at home. And if we can approach someone, and tailor it, like you said, and make sure we are targeting. And I'm thinking, Dina, of the girl, the wife, if she has a Zoom business, Zumba, you said, is that what's Zumba, not
Zumba.
Zoom?
She teaches, yeah, she teaches Zumba at the Y.
Zumba.
With
Yeah. So yeah, if she's at the Y, I don't know versus independent, but it's like, hey, I don't know if you've ever considered like a secondary income stream. I don't know, if that would appeal to them. So trying to
right,
find, and like you said, that's something you may have to dig into a little bit to find out what that's something that may get my attention first because I'm a business person and I'm very bottom line. Like, if you tell me there's an additional revenue stream and it will help my clients or patients, I'm going to listen instead of just, hey, these are great or whatever. And I don't know you said, but you know what I'm saying? So, really, make it as personal and as relevant to that person. Otherwise, it's like Dixie said, most people are just getting bombarded. And
right,
I had one girl, she was trying to sell me something, and like every other day, she kept, and I felt horrible, but I had to say, you have to stop messaging me. You can't keep, like there
right,
was no value. She wasn't understanding who I was or what my needs were, what my clients' needs were. And
right,
that lack of personalization, she lost me. I thought, I don't care what, if you've got gold, I'm not, I can't do this. I can't connect with you. I can't relate. So,
right,
Well, and a trick that you can do too is when it comes to that. So you've already offered it to her, so she knows like you have peptides. I would go in and use Chat GPT and be like, hey, I have a Zumba instructor that I had introduced the peptides to just a tiny bit. I don't know if she's reviewed any of the information. Can you help me with some questions that I can ask her about her Zumba business, about her clients? Because then what happens is you might get questions where, like, because I'll go in sometimes, I have the, like this brain block where I'm like, I don't even know what to say to this person, but Chat GPT can come up with that. And then you can go back to her, whatever her name is, Joanna. Hey, Joanna, I know that I was talking to you about my venture, but I wanted to ask you about your Zumba business. How long have you been doing it? And have you always been at the Y? Then she'd be like, oh, I've been doing it 6 years and I just got to the Y. And then go from there. Well, were you do you like being at the Y? Where did you work before? Is this, is this your main thing that you do? So like really make this about her. And then like Bonnie said, start to flip around. Well, what if I could show you a way that you can incorporate this with what you're already doing? And it can bring in another income stream, but help your clients get even better results. Because then they're going to want to, they're going to be more motivated to stick it out with you in Zumba as well. So start prodding her to find out about her Zumba business. And then you can show her how she can mesh it into that. Because sometimes that's the problem is we don't know anything about them or how they could utilize it. And like Bonnie said, it's just another thing that is going to be on their plate. But until we can help her see how it can not take any additional time, essentially, from what she's already doing, it's just another cohesive piece to her teaching women how to feel good and how, to get results.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's 12:28, so you guys have an option. We can do breakout rooms if you want, or we can continue to just, we do have calls this week, Monday, Tuesday, or I always say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesdays is a men's one. Dina, this is something that you might be able to offer to that gentleman, to her husband.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then if you want, you can message me on the side and I will kind of show you, I can help you with ChatGPT, unless if you have yours pretty well trained, but come up with some type of message to where first ask him some questions, try to get him to talk back. Well, he already ignored you on the first one, huh?
Yeah. And then he ignored me on the second one too.
So what I would do is I would, at this point, I would give the open invite. I'd be like, hey, I know that your wife is teaching Zumba. And I know that you're really big into fitness, and this may or may not be for you guys. But the reason I thought of you is because you're already in the space of helping people. And be like, if you want to hear from a man's perspective, we do have a men's call tomorrow night. I can send you the information if you want. At this point, I would say, if I sent it to you, would you take a look instead of just popping the link? Because at that point, if he's ignoring you, it's like more pressure. If you're like, here's the link, jump on, you should watch it. Like you're pushing him to it, but instead you're opening it up and say, this is really why I thought of you. I really think that you guys could do great because you're already in the space of helping others, along with taking care of yourself. If I sent this over to you, would you jump on? And then leave it at that. And then, I think later on, I don't know if it's on Justin's or not, or if it's something that I've done myself, but I do a takeaway at a certain point where they're either ignoring me or they're not giving, in most cases, it's when they're ignoring you, because they're going to tell you yes or no, or they're ignoring you. I would go back in and just be like, hey, it looks like timing might not be right. This may not be something for you. I appreciate you at least taking the time for me to share it with you. Although, if you know of anybody that you think that would really connect with this, I'd love for you to send them my way, because it creates this psychological pattern where they're like, oh, she doesn't want me to do this business with her anymore, or she doesn't want to show me these products, but she's going to offer it to other people. Sometimes they're like, no, it's not that. I am interested. I just haven't had the time, and I can't, I haven't been able to get in here and, get the information from you. And other times they might be like, yeah, sure, I'll send people over.
Right. And then if somebody else happens to mention peptides or weight loss or sleep, they're like, oh, Dina.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So you always, there's many different techniques that you can use. And I know Justin's going to be teaching us a lot more of them. I think week 3, let me go see what we have for week 3.
Dixie, do you ever say, I've said this before, like, hey, I'll take you off my list. Because that, again, it's the same, that they're losing, that connection. So if they were interested, they may not want to be removed. And you can always follow up later. It's not forever list, but
yeah, and that's a good takeaway as well, right? So for this gentleman, I would do I thought, this is why I thought of you guys, and it may not be for you, but we do have a men's call. If I sent you the information, would you want to jump on? If he doesn't respond to you, give it a couple days and then just come back and say, hey, timing must not be right, and that's okay, but I'll go ahead and take you off of my list. And if things change in the future, just reach out to me. And then at that point, you don't need to really, follow up with him anymore, unless if he comes back, like Bonnie said, and is like, oh, no, I'm interested, and then you can kind of go from there.
Okay.
But anyways, I was going to go look at week 3, or actually week 4. Oh no, it is week 3. I get mixed up. So we're going to be talking about recruiting up, the 5 legitimate business reasons, and recruit with clarity. So I think as we slowly get through this, it's going to help us as we're going through, especially like the recruit with clarity. So it's going to help us get really fine tuned on being clear on who we are inviting. So let me know, do you guys want to do a breakout session to invite people, or do we want to continue to just mastermind here and then you guys do your working 30 on your own?
I actually have to jump off because I'm actually working my full-time job right now.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say, can you send me the recording of this so I can watch the rest of it later if you guys don't do the breakout
Yes.
rooms?
Yep, I'll send you the recording. And Linda was
Wonderful.
shaking her head. I wonder if she might need to be jumping off too. Oh, you're muted, hon. It's always
Sorry
fun.
about
unmuting.
that.
No
Sorry
worries.
about that. No, I've got my grandson here, so I got to jump off too. I'm kind of watching him, and I was working on GPT to get some more updated prospect list on what my niche is as far as helping with the senior goals and so on, because that's what I'm going for with
Yeah.
all the seniors who need all the help that they can get out of fixed income, and that's very much a challenge for me at this point. So,
But you have clarity of who
oh
you're looking
yes,
for.
yes,
So this next week, that cleared the session about recruiting with clarity, like the people that you're trying to help, and why you're trying to help them. So that will be really good.
right.
Before you ladies jump, I want to give you a quick little tip on something that you can do that can help you, so that as we're recruiting and we're going through and we're creating these conversations, like he talked about creating more influence, right? And I always say influence is not the amount of followers you have, it's the amount of people that trust you. So you can have 5,000 followers, but if I got 10 people that really know me, I'm not of influence. So something that I do, I call it the 3-3-3 method. This does take, you got to be very intentional. You do need to put the time in, but it helps you. And I don't want this to deter you and only do this 3-3-3 and then never ask these questions. Because the goal is we have to compound those conversations to create the questions to invite people. But this is going to give you a little bit more influence to be able to pop the question to people. So I go through and I find people that through my friends book list, or that I ended up, they follow me or they friend me, and I go look at their page and decide, is this somebody I would want to work with? And the way I decide that is, do they have a profile picture? If it's a cat, if it's blank, it's not anybody that I want to work with, right? Are they showing up on social, or was the last time they posted 6 weeks ago? Not worth my energy at this point. So you kind of look at that and see, are they somewhat social on Facebook? Do they have a profile photo? And is it somebody that's within your niche, right? Then from there, the 3-3-3 method, what I do, I put them on a list and I engage on at least 3 of their posts, and I engage on at least 3 of their stories. Because what this does is it shows me having that interest in them. And that's what people want. I mean, why do we post about cutting down a Christmas tree? Because we want people to see what we're doing, right? Like that's why all of us post on social, is because we like for people to know what we're doing in life, who we are. And so you have to think that our leads that we're looking at, that's why they post as well. So comment on 3 posts, make sure that it's very genuine, right? Very specific to their post. And then don't ever forget to comment on their stories, because when you comment on their stories, what does that do? You're in their inbox, right? And so now you're in there because it sends it to their inbox when you comment on their story. When you comment on their story, if there's an opportunity to ask a question, there isn't always, but of the 3 times that you comment on a story, at least one of them, you should be asking a question in regards to what that story is. because you want them to come back and respond to you. So then you can continue this conversation so that when you go to ask them the question, it's not just me popping in their inbox, blindsided. They've seen me showing up on their Facebook. They've seen me showing up in their stories. And then I feel like I have some posture because I'm like, hey, I love how you're showing up on social. Like you're in the same era as me. Like we're in perimenopause, fighting through life, still trying to work out fitness. And I thought of you because I felt that we would work really well together. And Justin kind of gives you those ideas of I thought of you because. So if you guys do this 3-3-3 method before you ask the question, it's going to give you a little bit more influence and credibility. But when you do this, that means you got to compound that 3-3-3. Don't let it take you 2 weeks to do that. Like you want your name constantly popping up. So what I like to do is, so here's the third part of the 3. So you got 3 stories, 3 posts within 3 days. So if you need to, at the beginning of every week, look at, if you're going to be working, like, let's look at this, Monday through Wednesday, that's 3 days. And then let's say Thursday through Saturday, that's 3 days. According to your work schedule, how many people could you sit down and do the 3-3-3 with? It's 5, everybody's numbers are going to be different. Depends the time that you have available. If that's the case, create your list at the beginning of the week. Who's my 5 people I'm going to work through Monday through Wednesday? Who's my 5 people I'm going to work through Tuesday through Saturday? And then you're very intentional. You have their names and you're going to go to their social to find stuff to comment on. And then that way, by Thursday, after you do the 3 posts and the 3 stories in 3 days, I pop the question. I don't worry about what they say, but I pop the question because they've seen me showing up. And then I feel like I have a little bit more credibility because I'm paying attention to them. You do that, and let's say that you pick 5 people for the first half of the week and 5 for the second half. That's 10 questions you pop in 1 week. And you've created interest in them. And then from there, you can filter them. So it's like a funnel, right? So you have all these 3-3-3 people, and then you pop the question, and it's like they go to this next funnel. Did they ignore you? Well, then they go over here. Did they say yes? Then, it's like a diagram. If they say yes, you're inviting them to a call. If they say no, they're not interested, you'll put them on like a 3-month, 6-month follow-up. And so you can figure out that process. And that's maybe something that we could talk about more in detail, because I do have a whole system that I've been fine tuning on where I put people in what I call like my buckets as I take them through this 3-3-3. But if you're intentional with that, that's, if you did 5 and 5, that's 10 people you invite in a week, right? If you did that for a month, that's 40 people that you would invite. If you want to compound your conversations even more, maybe make it 7 people, right? Or 10 people that you're essentially, and your comments, gauge yourself and see how long it takes for one person to do that on. It shouldn't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes a person. So you could do like a power hour and probably get your 5 people kicked out. From there, though, there's going to be variables. Some people may not have 3 stories up that you can comment on, or they may not have 3 posts up. That's fine if they don't. You just filter them to a different list and you find somebody else that you can replace and do that 3-3-3 with. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
Dixie, are you inviting, what are you inviting? Are you inviting them to look at products, business? Hey, Dana. Or inviting them to the next call? What is the invitation for you? Does it depend, or does it vary if you think, they seem like a great person, but I don't know if they're really a business person. Maybe I just invite them to look at the product.
So I try not to prejudge if they would be good at the business or not. So, and I think I talked about this on week 1. I always try to invite them to a call. There's nothing better than the energy of other people jumping on and learning. And I always do it within the mindset of the business, because so when I ask them, and, Justin has those words, venture, project, and I can't remember what the other one is. I'll have to go listen to it again. I should know by now, but I always will ask them, hey, I thought of you because I have this new project I'm working on. Obviously, we have some exciting things coming out this month, so it's going to be really recruiting focused. but I usually always lead with the business, because if I send that out and they're like you, Bonnie, I just don't have any more time on my plate. Like I don't have time to do another business right now. Like, that's okay. Not a problem at all. But I would love if you just want to check out what the products can do for your health and wellness. Because now you've downgraded them to a customer versus trying to upgrade and push the business on them.
Right.
And so that's why if you use these calls, Testimony Tuesday, Wellness Wednesday, I don't know what Thursday is, whatever name, to where it's not necessarily they feel it's business focused, but they can look at it from either aspect. Is it customer? Like, they can get on and learn about products, because they do talk about products and they share people's testimonies. That's the first thing that they see, is people's before and afters. And then you can follow up with them, and then you can figure out, well, which path is going to be best for you? Like, did you see vision? Do you see what we see in the business? Or do you think customer is going to be more suited for you? So I always, like, right now, that's my focus. That's all my invite is. Unless if it's somebody that comes to me for the product, then I go right into getting them the information, getting their info, and, having them become a customer.
That's really good. Thank you for defining that.
Absolutely. Linda, I know you need to go. Do you have any other questions before you hop?
No, as of right now, I don't. Thank you so much, Dixie. I appreciate your help.
You're very welcome. Have a good day.
Have a good day, ladies.
Thank you.
And then, did you ladies have any other questions? Like, I'm here till 1. So if you guys want to go over more, if you guys feel if you're fulfilled and good, we can jump. I can give you back 15 minutes.
I have one quick question. So, it was interesting what you said earlier about, not basing what you're doing today on the past. So a lot of my head goes back to, okay, I've done this before. I've been with other companies, made it to the top position, had 300 plus, team members. And, but I'm thinking, after you said that, I was like, and I was kind of using that as, oh, I can do this again. And it's not really working that way. So what is that, kind of like that magic? Where do you, what is I guess the thought process if you're not basing on it? Well, like, I was trying to use that confidence. Well, you have done it before. You can do it again.
So you can still use that from the past, but you have to build upon that. So you have to do something more than what you've done in the past, right? Because if you're just going to rely on what worked then and not build upon it, then you're just going to stay in the same state, right? So you might not ever progress here at Make Wellness. So if it's still like, reaching out to people and, using the positive thought patterns, you want to keep those, but you have to think about where you're going to go. So where do you want to be in the future? So look at where you were in your top position in one of these other companies. Do you want to grow beyond that? If so, then you know that you're going to have to do more strategically the right way than what you did before. So that could be compounding the conversations, inviting more people to the calls, getting more people in the ATM group. So what worked, keep that, but what didn't work, you can't repeat that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. It was just kind of interesting because you said that, and I've been trying to use that, and I'm like, but it really doesn't seem like it's working at all. So I just, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to decide what works and what doesn't, and then get rid of what's not working, and that what is working, that's your starting point. Now we have to grow beyond that. We have to add things. And I don't want to say add things because it's never about adding. It's about pivoting and doing what works right. And so that's why I'm really, really focusing with you guys. Like the biggest thing we should be doing is inviting on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Just keep doing it, because what's going to happen is you might only have 1 or maybe 2 that show up for the week. Your conversations are going to be lighter. They're not going to be as impactful. But as we continue to do this, you're going to slowly start seeing more people getting on the calls. You're sending more conversations. You're having more people respond. Because again, about people being bombarded with all of these cells and join my business and this and that, most people are just working through text. They're going to send you a flyer. They're going to send you a video. Nobody's getting on calls. Nobody's putting a face to the meeting. We want to do that differently, right? So that's probably something, and you may have done that in the past, but that's where these calls can be totally different. So instead of being like, oh, well, here's a one pager that tells you what my restore did. Or here's some results of what my products have done. Those are great to still share, but your ultimate goal, first off, should be you should get on this call. Because if you get on this call, you can get some results, and then I can send you some supporting information. So
Right.
that's where I'm switching stuff, is because we're such a like internet social world. I want to be on calls with people, and I want them on video. So like if it's a business partner, I'm offering to get on a call with them, right? So it's them watching the video through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then me getting on a call. If it's a customer, I usually don't get on calls with customers, but I want them to have more of a human connection, because if I'm offering you peptides, Bonnie, and I'm like, hey, jump on here. I want you to hear from these other amazing women. We have a call tomorrow night. You're going to see all the testimonies, and I'll share some other info with you, but really hop on this call so you can hear the stories. And then from there, we'll talk about what we can help you with. So if I do that, and then you have somebody else that says, hey, Bonnie, check out this website. You should look at these peptides. You might be more inclined to want to see what I'm doing, because I'm bringing in a personal aspect into it versus just bombarding you with all the stuff you need to look at and make a decision on, versus getting on a call, which is going to create more of an emotional tie, right? Because there's people talking, you can see people's faces. It's going to help them make a better decision that way versus reading a PDF or watching a video that's recorded. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. And I was thinking, really, because I have a lot of customers. And I'm thinking, okay, I probably really need to get them connected to this, and I'm thinking, well, they could use their friend share, like let's educate them on other products maybe that they're not using, to help them as well to utilize that and maybe trigger something, as far as the business is concerned. Any thoughts on that? Inviting customers, you did touch on it a bit, but
customers are usually going to be your best affiliates because they've already been on the products. So what I would do is, if you have a lot of customers, I would start using them as your list that you're starting each week. You don't need to do the 333 with them because you're already supporting them. But what I would do is I would make a list of those customers and work through every single one of them and message them. And, it's going to be a different script for each one, but just be like, hey, I thought of you because you've been using these products, and I know this is what you've been experiencing so far, but I would love for you to jump on our call Tuesday night. It's going to share more about the testimonies and how you might be able to take this wellness a little bit further. And maybe we can help you. And the conversation might be different. Maybe we can help you earn enough money to pay for your own product. Or, this is probably something really great that you can offer to your friends, and I can show you how to make an extra income online. Would you be open to it? So always ask them at the end, would you be open to jumping on? And then that way, and you can always say, because he talks about it, in the 6 steps to professional inviting is to take the pressure away. If not, no worries. I just thought you would be intrigued by it.
Got it. Okay.
So that's what I would do with your customers, because you don't ever want to prejudge where they're at. They might be secretly praying that they need a couple extra $100, and they have no idea that they could do it through these peptides that they're already loving. So I would start messaging them and, and kind of engage who has interest, and then get them on the calls.
Excellent. Okay. That's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm good. And I'm going to have to hop off here as well.
Okay. Yeah, if we don't have anything else. Nothing? Good? Okay, perfect. Well, then I'll get this recording. I'll get this recording out. And then remember, you guys are on the daytime, so you'll be fine. But our evening one next Monday, we're going to replace with our team party. So go find all your festive pajamas and all the fun stuff. And we'll see you guys then.
Awesome. Thanks, Dixie. Appreciate you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.